Can we start? Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Shri Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
So we are going to talk about the Purusha Suktam. The point is the Purusha Suktam is a tremendously huge situation. I wouldn't call it a text actually, in the sense of it's an experience, and it's an experience that has no words, as they say. We can only try to find just a flavor of it from this, which would perhaps inspire some of us to search for the ultimate. So with the grace of the Guru and the grace of Ganapati, so there will be no obstacles, and the grace of Saraswati Ma, as far as we can try to understand, each in their own way, which is about me also, because they say that if you have millions of tongues, you can still not understand the greatness of the Purusha Sukta. A story goes that once Shiva and Parvati, that is the causal force of the universe, Shiva, and his Shakti, the energy, were talking. And she asked him, now what can we do to bring out help people understand the highest values? And while they were talking, they say the ocean was being churned, the Milky Ocean. You must have heard of the churning of the milk ocean. I won't go into that now. And out of that, two sound vibrations came out. One was the Purusha Sukta, and the other one was the Sri Sukta. Now, for all of us, everybody in the universe, and not just people like us who are drawn towards the spiritual, but for every creation, every created being, whether it is other human beings, whether it is a child, whether it's an infant in the womb, whether it's an insect, an animal, trees, plants, everything is a fraction, a millionth of a fraction of this Purusha. We will come to the Purusha itself later, but just to understand a few basic facts before going into the Purusha Suktam itself. And it is every being's purpose of creation to find the source from which we came. You know, just like an adopted child will look around sometimes for its biological parents, or a child who has been kidnapped and taken away will suddenly wake up one day and realize that something is not right. Let me search for my biological parents. In the same way, all of us have come through the gates of our biological parents. But if you go to who created them, their biological parents, and how does this lineage of birth and death go on continuously without a break and unfailingly in every creature, right from the highest universes down to a blade of grass. The whole thing happens by the will of Purusha and his energy, that is called the dynamic aspect of himself, that is called Prakriti. I'll come to Purusha and Prakriti later. So, just so we understand it, we all search for something, for happiness, for peace, for harmony with other people close to us. And sometimes we leave out the people who are not close to us, people who are different from us. And that is where the Maya is working. We then categorize ourselves as I. We identify with just our physical body and we say, this is I. And all the people that this physical body finds comfortable and convenient to itself because of the ego become mine. Then this I and mine expand and expand and expand. On the journey, it's an endless journey. And on this endless journey, we search for meaning in life. And when we are searching for meaning in life, we come across a lot of tempting situations which make us identify with it. If you have a beautiful body that gets validation from others like us who are identifying with their body, and we say, how beautiful I am. If you get a wise mind, then we identify with other people who are considered wise by society according to the use we are to society. And then we start saying, I am wise. Then, if we become powerful, nothing like the heady intoxication of power and the feeling that power will get us past anything, which is to a large extent true when you come to the aspects of living. But then most of us forget that in the process of living, there is also dying. Now, when we are thinking of dying, where are we going when you die? Can we take an ounce of our wealth or our power or our kinsman along with us? This is the story of Gajendra Moksha, which I'm not going to get into right now. But at some point, when the Atma, or that part of you which is a part of the consciousness of the divine, your source, this is our real father and the real mother, Purusha and Prakriti. And we are moving towards that because we cannot stop it. We cannot stop death. We cannot stop moving towards it when the time comes because we are all like clocks on a warranty period. Time has decided when we are born and when we will leave the physical body. So at that time, we have to know something about where we are going towards. So then you'll find that the search for the ultimate truth is an endless journey. We are expanding the mind by thinking, I have more wealth, I have more houses, I have more cars. There is nothing wrong with that. Expand ourselves. But the point is, the false identification is what gets us into trouble. The false identification is thinking that this big car is mine. Somebody scratches on it, we go into a fury because we say, I have been hurt. If your leg has a fracture, then we would say, I am ill. It is like understanding that if you have a factory or a corporate company or something, if one of your employees is ill, you don't close the whole factory and say, no, we are ill. That person goes for rest and the rest of the world carries on. And so it is with the mind that we have. This is mine, that is yours. This division that we have created. And then because of this division, we try to acquire what the other person has. See, none of us are actually in reality dissatisfied with what we have. Most of us are dissatisfied because the other person has more. And that is what creates more than half the problems, because we have made a division between I and mine and you and yours. When if you remove the walls of your house, if everybody removes the walls of their house and they are out on the roads, if there are no roads, what would we say is my place? The whole world belongs to us. The whole world is our property in that sense, given to us, not to take and not to hurt somebody else, but to live comfortably and joyously. So we notice at that time, and this is why they say we have to contemplate at every point, not just take something for granted. And in this contemplation, some of us at some time come to this understanding that the human mind is limited. We are limited. That is the way it is. Just like the trees and plants are limited, that they cannot walk around. The bird is limited because it cannot swim. The fish is limited, it cannot fly. With all our technological skills and other skills that we may have, we are still limited to a large extent in mind and body, even though we can do many more things than other creations. But because we can do many more things, it just means that we are skilled in body and mind. It does not mean that we are superior or inferior to any of the other creation. So when you are thinking of something that is limitless, which is what Purusha is, the limited mind is not able to conceive of this as a reality. We only um, see it in terms of our own limitedness. We see it as big as my house, the Purusha, or as big as my country, as big as the countries that my children or my grandchildren or my kinsmen go to, or as big as the world. And even a little conceptually, we can think of it as big as the universes put together. But then, this is awesome, even to imagine. But imagine that we were actually confronting it, seeing it live in front of us. It can be pretty um, shaking. So the truth is infinite. There is no beginning, no end. That is why they call it Ananta. Anta is end, Ananta, endless. When we start searching, on the way we come across a compassionate fraction again of that Purusha. And this particular bit of energy has been sent or ordained by that Purusha, because that fraction has merged into that Purusha and carries the authority it has given by the Purusha to take unfortunate souls like us along the way, so that our expansion too can be helped. And whatever we are expanding ourselves into, whether it is we love, you might just have one sari at home and you're happy. Then you start filling up a closet full of saris. Then you build more closets. Then you go into the aesthetics of a sari. Uh, or anything like that, what happens is the objects go on giving us a sense of expansion. But the real expansion is when we go to the innermost part of ourselves. And having gone to the innermost part, we find that this infinite, endless being is in a very um, small portion within us also. All this comes in the Purusha Sukta, which we will um, go into later. But just to understand this, this infinite consciousness is also in a small way within us. There is no place that this consciousness is not. The entire universes are pervaded by this highest consciousness that we call the Purusha. When from the normal mind, that I'm talking of the normal mind, this is not really the normal mind. The normal mind is when we are with the highest consciousness. This is an abnormal mind. But this is what we generally call the normal mind, which all of us relate to comfortably. And from this normal mind, there are dimensions of the mind of ideas, the purer, less conditioned, higher mind, where we are not conditioned by all these identifications. Then you have the intuitive mind, going higher and deeper, the illumined mind, and the mind of awareness, and eventually the truth mind. So, this is what we are making a journey within ourselves, and in the process, expanding ourselves into the whole of what we see outside also. And then the rishis found when they did this that there were parallels between what was happening on the outside and what was happening on the inside. So the rishis stayed in one place quietly. They didn't have to go from temple to temple. From you find a guru, you stay with that guru and you learn. You go deep into one place. It's like joining a company, using a drilling machine to go deeper and deeper to get water, rather than to make um, hold for every foot and say there's no water here, let me go to the next site, next site, next site. So one of the very important parts of this journey is constancy. Constantly remind yourself, I am on this journey and I will get off at my destination. If I do get off here and there, it will be with the thought of that destination in my mind while I'm having entertainment on the other side. And when this happens and we are constantly thinking of the infinite, the divine sense, a being or beings called a guru, and this guru pulls us out of a mess every time we move into it, until we realize that this guru himself is an expansion of the whole, all the universes, because he has merged into the Purusha. So we hold on to the Guru, and holding on to the Guru, we follow his footsteps. So just a small story that I want to tell you, that at one time there was a Gopika in Brindavan. There's a picture about it also. The Gopikas were they loved Krishna. This is a story in the Bhagavatam. They loved Krishna, but at the same time, he was so naughty that it could be what they considered was stressful on the human level with a limited mind, and it could be pretty frustration, because what Krishna did was he would always go into their homes when they were not aware, and he would steal all the butter and eat it. The butter that they had kept for, which they had churned from their cows and kept for selling to the public. Now, these gopikas were rishis in one birth, and I won't talk of that now, and who were constantly being so wise and expansive that they would come back every time they left their body and expand some more. Come back, expand some more. Go back, come back, expand some more. And they were not interested in expanding for the sake of expansion, but they wanted to merge with the Purusha. That was their interest. And the divine saw through that, and the Supreme was born in the form of Krishna. And this Krishna would go and steal away the butter. The meaning there is, which people who are wiser know it. And the meaning there is that we churn and churn and churn the best part of ourselves. We make curds and then we churn some more out of the milk of our own essence, and then we um, make cream out of it, butter out of it. And then this butter is warmed up to form ghrita or ghee, which is um, refined butter. And in the warmth of it, it becomes clarified butter. And clarified butter is used as an offering into the fire of our own inner aspiration. This inner aspiration is a Satya Sankalpa. It is the will of the divine that this should happen. So when the Gopikas who were rishis came into existence as Gopikas, they were not scholars. They were not great research assistants. They were not highly educated. But one thing they knew, that none of these things will give them the ultimate and permanent satisfaction. Only being with the truth would. They didn't think of it also in these terms, because the truth came and stood face to face with them as a little child, a cowherd in a village, Gokula. And they were girls they were born as girls who were selling the milk. So they had their human side also. And each time Krishna stole butter, they would be annoyed. They would go to Krishna's mother and they would say that here's your son, he steals all our butter. What are we to do? And she would look at Krishna and he would have that most appealing look on his face, which would say, me? Do I ever steal? And then the mother would say, you're all envious of my son because he's so cute and you're simply making up stories about him. Find me a proof that he does really steal, and then I'll chastise him. And the Gopikas, looking at Krishna's rolling eyes and um, piteous face in front of his mother, would feel uh, attracted to him, and they'd go and hug him and they would say, it's okay, sweetheart. This time it's okay, but they'd silently whisper in his ear, don't ever come and steal again. And he'd nod his head, and that would be the end of that. On one particular day, a Gopika, and remember, Gopikas were all young girls when all this happened. They were not adults as we see in movies and in cartoon books and things. They were all young girls who were taking family responsibilities when they were young with a great joyous manner. They enjoyed it. Going to sell milk, curds, and butter was an adventure, was a picnic for them. So on one occasion, one of these girls came into her own larder where she stored the butter, and she saw Krishna busily eating it, smearing his face with it while eating. And she said, now I've got you. Let me see. I'll take you to your mother. She'll see the telltale signs of butter around your mouth, and for once you'll get caught and you're going to get it from your mother. At which point Krishna darted past her and ran. So this Gopika ran behind him. And as she ran behind him, she looked, she didn't know where to go. The door was open. What shall I do? I don't know which side he's gone. And then she saw footsteps of butter, tiny little footsteps. And she said, aha, now I know where he's gone. Let me go and catch him. So she follows the footsteps which lead to a tree. And she looks up because the footsteps stop there. And she looks up at the tree and she sees Krishna sitting there. So then she says, now I've got you. I don't mind. I can sit here for 24 hours. Sometime you'll have to come down and then I'll catch you. So she sat there and he sat on top of a tree. After 6 hours, he jumped down to run away, but she caught him. And she said, now I've got you, she said. And he said to her, don't pride yourself saying that you caught me. You caught me because you followed my footsteps. I left my footsteps for you to follow me and catch me. So the tattvam there is that we can find the infinite, the Purusha, only when the Purusha showers his grace on us. You cannot feel entitled to it because we take sannyas or because we are working in a very philanthropic way somewhere. We can do any of these. We can be the best people in the world. But when you reach a particular point, you have to wait for grace. And what happens? Because God's grace is necessary to find God. The Purusha's grace is necessary to find the Purusha. That is the tattvam of the story. So we have to understand a few more things that we are going to talk about before we go into the Purusha Suktam itself, which might even be tomorrow. So why is it that as we go deeper and deeper, we need to stay for a while at each dimension, because each dimension is more powerful than the earlier one. For example, you're just an ordinary physical person. You're going for your work and coming back. Sometime along the way, you want to train to be a Olympic swimmer. You're an ordinary good swimmer, but you're not an Olympic swimmer. Now, when you have to train to be an Olympic swimmer, you can't within 24 hours or 48 hours continuously without stopping. You cannot swim and swim and swim and reach the caliber of an Olympic swimmer. You have to go stage by stage, rest by rest, being nurtured along the way, taking the proper nutrition, having a coach to take you around. So all these situations give you the feeling that your limited body and mind can only do so much under normal circumstances, and that the energies of other creations are necessary for you to reach that Olympic level. It is necessary even now, but we don't notice it. But when you train for an Olympic race, you suddenly start noticing it. The energy of your coach, if your coach has fever and is in bed or is constantly sick, it doesn't help. If you're living in a place where it's constantly raining, you cannot get into the swimming pool. If you have a drought in a place and no water for a swimming pool, you can't learn swimming. If you don't have proper trees and mountains to hold the water in the soil, you cannot have a swimming pool. If you do not have the wherewithal to reach a swimming pool and learn swimming normally itself, or you're so poverty stricken you have to work for um, your daily needs, then you cannot learn swimming. So when you look at all this, you realize that when you move into another dimension, which is beyond our limited physical body and mind, a lot of energies come to our help. The trees, the plants, the mountains, we wouldn't realize when we are learning swimming, for example, in this case, we wouldn't realize how much they are contributing to the waters that we swim with. And all these energies are part of the Purusha. When you recognize that, then you don't think at that time that I am swimming. You realize that we are swimming. A lot of energies have taken part to push you into that particular situation. And that is why when people get a gold medal or something like that, they will say, I dedicate it to my country or I dedicate it to humanity. Why? Because they realize they haven't done it alone. Purusha in many, many forms, the Guru in many, many forms is helping the soul to grow higher and higher. Then these energies that come to our help in various places are called devatas. Just as we are vibrations, and these vibrations are um, in the form as we are. You can see you and me, we have a certain form. We look a particular way, a particular color, a particular gender. However, when you leave that form, when we leave the body, the mind, the form, everything, there is one part of us that is still alive and continuing the journey. This final journey, though hard, will be helped by spiritual forces. The spiritual forces which take form so that we are comfortable with it. One of them is called the divine waters. The divine waters are the dynamic part of the divine energy, it's called. So you will see if you have a puja done at home or any sacred ceremony, the priest will um, say certain mantras or certain sounds. Let's put it as sounds if you don't understand the mantras. In um, any religion, it doesn't matter what the religion is, because there is only one supreme God or one supreme Purusha. We can call him Yahweh, we can call him Father, you can call him Shiva, you can call him Krishna, you can call him Christ, you can call him Allah. It doesn't matter what you call this divinity, the name comes from our need to identify, the mind's need. It doesn't matter what it is, but this infinite is always there. And such an infinite energy cannot suddenly enter you. It's like having a nuclear power station for electricity in the whole country. And a fraction of it comes to um, light a lamp in a distant village. So if you put the entire nuclear energy into that bulb, one single bulb, the bulb is going to fuse. So this energy cannot be attained by a single individual in himself. Many, many energies are needed for one individual to progress up. And when that individual breaks the ceiling, everyone in the universe breaks the ceiling along with that person. And that is how evolution becomes greater and greater. From trees and insects and mammals, we have become human beings because of this energy that has taken a long time to evolve into who we are today. And in this long time, we have periods of rest where these energies have to be assimilated into ourselves. We have to come to terms with it. We have to handle its tremendous power little by little. These divine waters are what are called the cosmic kundalini, the cosmic power of the divine. And just as the divine is present within us, so are the divine waters, the kundalini shakti, available within us. But we can't just open it up with a technique. You cannot open it up with years of doing practices, eventually it comes with the grace of God, with the grace of that same waters. The, the waters themselves, or the divine who is in the form of waters, becomes the charioteer of our car, the chauffeur in our car as we are moving towards the final source. Why is this? Because we have tremendous intellects today. We had it then too. But when you have a tremendous intellect, what happens is the sheer power of that intellect can create an illusionary web around ourselves, which give that feeling of I am doing the research, I am understanding this, I am getting self-realized, and that I can, the I is a form of the ego, the ahamkar, or this special aspect of yourself, which is saying, go on, get into it, see how smart you are. Everybody is going to praise you, then you get an award, and then you're praised more. And along the way, we forget that this was not the purpose of our journey until a guru comes and wakes us up. So when we become that way, we realize that the intellect can be very deceptive. It can show us magic rainbows. It can show us beautiful palaces. It can show us great masses of wealth. If any of you know the story of Jesus in the wilderness, the inner ego within him, which was called the devil at that time, and now too, tempted him. It said, if you are hungry, your divine Father can make these stones into bread. Why don't you make it into bread? Because he was in the desert, in the wilderness, and there was no food, no water. For 45 days, he was hungry. The physical body was hungry. Jesus was hungry, but Christ was not. The soul within him was not hungry. The soul within him was hungry for something else, the divine. So this was a tremendous opportunity because along his way, he had many siddhis also. He could have done it. But he did not want to fall into that temptation because that would have brought him down and broken the will of the divine to whom he was devoted. So he said, thou shalt not test the Lord thy God. Then at a certain point, he looked out from the mountain top and he saw cities and cities in front of him. And the devil spoke to him, okay, don't eat, but I can give you all this kingdom, power to rule over all this. And Jesus said, no. And that is why Patanjali also says, when he talks about the a chapter in the Sadhana Pada, in which he is talking about the siddhis. When you have dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, that is, you get an interrupted vision of your Ishta Devata or an Omkar. That interrupted seeing becomes a constant movement. It becomes what we call ekagrata, or a single focusing on one point. And we all know that focus is necessary to do anything in the universe. Even a child needs to focus if he wants to come first in class. So this focusing that we do, the ekagrata that comes about, leads a person, a being, into samadhi, which is what happened to Jesus. That he said, man does not live by bread alone. That is, you don't live only on what you think physically you're putting into your mouth, but he lives with because of every vibration that proceeds from the mouth of God, meaning the initial vibration, which is the source of the entire universe being created. Patanjali says, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. The name you want to give to this energy that we call the Guru today is Om. So, whichever divinity you are meditating upon, whichever Guru it is, eventually that Guru is taking you towards the Pranava or the Om or the first vibration that created the entire universes. And through this vibration, we reach the source because it has come from the source. So that is the sadhana part of it, which is what Patanjali talks about. And he says, don't get caught up by psychic powers. We need psychic powers to give us a push and a pull from the other end so that we are moving in a straight line and not getting distracted. But the psychic power itself is not the end of the journey. So he says, don't get attracted to a psychic power because we haven't still handled the I and minus fully. And we will say, wow, this is me. I'm having this experience. I can do this. And that I will bring us all the way down. And then we have to climb up the ladder over many more lifetimes. So when you see a siddhi along the way, look at it and carry on because this is not our goal. The goal is something much higher, moving towards God. When I say God, I'm talking of the Purusha. So then the subtle mind has to use higher thoughts pushed up by psychic energies and taking the heart also, because it's not enough to just think, contemplate, know a subject and then act on it. It's like having a medical degree, the highest medical degree you have, but if you haven't had the experience of working with the patient, with the person who's ill, and with yourself when you're ill, you will not have the wherewithal to handle it. You can give a wrong medicine by mistake, and you might lose your registration. You might come all the way down. And if you need to start again, you will have to be born again and then start the medical studies slowly, slowly, slowly. So, this is how it is in real life. Where the problem here is because of the certain types of education that we have been exposed to, we think that by thinking about something, we achieve that something. Thought is not enough. The thought, as Swami Satyananda used to say, your thoughts can be deceptive. They can sort of trap you in your own web of illusions. Now, you have a yearning from the core of your heart. And the core of your heart, when I say, is not your physical heart. It is not just your emotions, not just your feelings. It is a certain something which is part of the will of the divine that you should move back towards the Purusha that makes you move in that direction all your life. You will find yourself taking those paths. And often, when you find a guru, he changes your whole life. If you've been running around on the wrong direction, he takes you and he turns you towards your journey and he walks with you hand in hand so you don't make that mistake again. That is the compassion of the divine, that of Purusha, that flows through who we call a guru, whoever your guru is. Now, at the um, at the base of this, as we carry on, we realize that we are not making the journey, as I said, single handedly. Many, many forces are with us, helping us, and working with us. Because somewhere every soul knows that it is connected to another soul. And if one soul reaches and breaks a barrier, every other soul has broken that barrier within itself. And that is why we call the uh, self-realization, the enlightenment, or the battle with the ego winning. the winning between Devatas and Daityas, that is a good and evil, and the winning of the war between the angels and devils, and eventually the angel winning. All these things are representative of the soul within every being that wins when the battle is won. It is not just the king who fights the battle who wins. All the soldiers are won. The entire country has won. In the same way, when one person breaks the ceiling, everyone else breaks the ceiling, not only in this universe, but in all the universes. And so it's a point of great joy. And this is why we remember people like this who have broken the ceiling for us, the ancient rishis, the great prophets of every religion, be it Christ, be it Muhammad, they've all walked for us. They've all carried us on their shoulders. And having reached a certain point, it is our duty now to carry the people behind us on our shoulders and also continue our own journey, which we are just at the beginning. Now, this comes because of the core of the heart, which knows to love. So here we are talking of an unconditional love or a devotion towards the Purusha that happens. And when you have that unconditional devotion to the Purusha, then that love, you will realize, is not your love or my love. It is the divine love that gets filtered through your guru and comes to you. And because of this love or the devotion, it takes you on the journey, because nothing can take us along a journey other than this one emotion, which becomes more as we go, as we exercise it. This is the only feeling that becomes more. If you have hatred, it can become less. If you're angry, you shout, it can become less. It can change, but love never becomes less. It never lessens you when you pour it out to the world, because you are the world in that sense. So, coming to the Purusha Suktam itself, before that, just an introduction to the Purusha Suktam itself. It is originally from the Rig Veda. It is called Sahasra Sirsha Sukta or Vriddhaharita Samhita. In the Baudhayana Dharma Shastra, it's called Sahasraksha Sutra. In the Mahanarayana Upanishad, which pertains to Narayana, who is the seer of the Purusha Suktam, and the Purusha himself, it's called Mahanarayaniyam. It is there in the Shukla Yajurveda and in the Krishna Yajurveda. The Sukta is called Narayana, or it's found in the Vajasaneya Samhita. It's found in the Samaveda also, just 6 mantras of it. Then it's found in the Atharva Veda in the 6th Sukta of the 19th Kanda, though the words will have little bit of difference. Now the entire Vedic canon follows the lead of the Purusha Suktam. That is, the Purusha Suktam is the essence of the entire Vedic canon. So when you say the Gayatri Mantra, which is the core of the Vedic Shastra, when you say Tat Savitur Varenyam, this Savitra is the same as Purusha of the Purusha Suktam. This Savitra of the Gayatri Mantra is the same as the Purusha Sukta Purusha. Gayatri has 4 padas or 4 feet. You remember the Gopika followed the feet of Krishna, the butter smeared feet of Krishna, and she found him the same way. The Gayatri leads us to him because she has 4 feet. The Purusha Sukta with 18 verses leads us to him. Adi Shankara says Brahman is called Purusha because he completes the three padas of Gayatri, perfecting it. That is, you have three padas. Tat Saviturvarenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvaswaha, that's first. Tat Saviturvarenyam, second. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, third pada, and he completes it, the fourth, the Purusha completes it by saying the um, Diyo Yona Prachodayat. The three padas of Gayatri, perfecting it, is the Purusha because he is the Sarva Puranat. He is the totality, the completeness of everything. He abides in the human heart without revealing himself. So the human heart is like a city, a puri, in which he is lying down. Why lying down? Because he is not yet revealed himself. You don't love him enough. So he is lying down and waiting for you to wake up to his presence. So Puri Shayanat is another um, reason he is called Purusha. The fourth pada of the Gayatri is the spirit which is responsible for three other padas. That is, the three padas, all of them are phenomena that are happening. The entire creation in the universe, whether it's mobile or immobile, whose manifestation, the manifestation of the universes, is an expression of his sleeping glory. You know, when you're sleeping, you're doing nothing. You're lying as if you're dead. You're not dead. The minute you wake up, you get up, you water your garden, you do your cooking, you're manifesting the food, you're manifesting the flowers in the garden. When you go to work, you're manifesting the energy in technology. As a mother, you're manifesting the maternal element in you. Then in the night, you go back to sleep. What happens? Again, it is as if you are lying dead. You're not dead. The point is, you're not in manifestation. You are latent and sleeping. And that is how everything in the universe is. When the creation happens, it's a manifestation, which is an expression of his glory. But at the same time, he is greater than his manifestation. What do they mean? He is higher than his expression. Supposing I were to tell you, I love you, this is the expression of my love for you. But that feeling in me is much greater than those words I use. I love you. That is why when um, people are, two people are very, very deeply in love, they start with silence. They don't know what to say to each other when they meet for the first time. Of course, as love becomes less and less, then there will be a war of words or there'll be more noise. But the fact is that when you go in front of a guru, and this is the purpose when you go in front of a guru, you don't talk to him. You just do your namaskar and sit silently in front of him. And he is feeding you with his vibrations. Don't try to analyze what he is saying through your mind. Swami Satyananda, when he left Munger and he went to Rikia, and he was an Avadut, the first time people were meeting him after 2 or 3 years or more, I don't remember because I don't have a head for numbers. The first time they met him, people went from all over the world. They came to see him because the guru has gone to another place, given up being in one place. And he had, his hair was grown, he had a beard, while earlier on he was clean shaved. He was wearing nothing but a cowpeen, sometimes just um, a dhoti sort of situation. And people were fascinated. What has happened to this man? And they said they thought he was going to talk about something profound. Now, when he went there, when everyone went there, all he talked about for about 45 minutes to an hour was about bricks. He was talking about bricks and how they are made. He said, you know how bricks are made? And then you put it in the kiln and then it becomes baked. And here, who is doing this? The the tribals in this place are doing it. There are many brick kilns anywhere, everywhere around here, in such and such a place, such and such a place. There were many people who felt disappointed or let down because they thought, is this what he is going to say? We thought he is going to say great truths. Now, why does that happen? It's because of an illusion that when you hear a great truth, we have become the truth. So, when a person wants to be in power, he'll say, follow the truth. And everybody listens, saying, yes, we are all following the truth. They're only words. But what a guru can give us is more than words. What he was doing and what gurus of that caliber or higher do is they don't give you words, they give you vibrations. And if you sit quiet and stop the mind from trying to analyze or judge or look at it from the limited mind, you will open the gates of your mind and your heart will open because of your devotion to your guru. And the words will be vibrations, and you'll realize those words are like pegs on which is hanging the vibrations and sending to you. And there is meaning in some of the words he said also. When he said about the baking of the kiln, he's telling you, bake yourself, don't come half baked, you know. And life is there to bake us with all the ups and downs. So, this is what most gurus will do, not necessarily in what they speak, because what they are feeling and the compassion they have is a million times more than their speech. So, who is this Purusha that they have merged with? Purati agre gachati, that which goes ahead. How does it go ahead? The truth always goes ahead. You can never defeat the truth. Someday or the other, you have to face the truth. Everybody um, has to face the truth because the truth is who you are. The truth is who Purusha is. You'll hear the words both in the Bible, in the Quran, and in the Vedas. Truth is that which was, which you say God is, that which is, and that which will always be. Meaning it's an eternal something. And it's not a thing, because these are the words that we use in common uh, talk, that sometimes we use them even without thinking. It's an something that is alive. Consciousness is alive. Then you have another term which defines it. Pipparati purayati balam yaha. That which fills all with strength. Puri shete yaha. That which lies within the township. Then the root pr means protecting, pervading, and filling. So in the Purusha Sukta, the concept of the Sankhya, Purusha, and Prakriti comes. If you can put that first slide, that is okay. So you see, this is the cosmic principles of the Sankhya philosophy, the 24 principles, which have come to us by an avatar or a coming down of the Purusha in one form as Kapila Rishi. Kapila gave the first teaching of the Sankhya philosophy to his mother, who was just a very devoted woman. She was devoted to her husband, she was devoted to her son, and the love and devotion opened her heart, and he spoke into that heart. Just in brief, the cosmic principles of Sankhya is one. There are two principles, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha, which we were talking about, the consciousness that is lying within the city of every being, is the entity that is called the combined force of creation, maintenance, and dissolution of all the universes. This is called the Purusha, which is just a witness. It's a consciousness, it doesn't act. It just looks on. It makes a sankalpa. But the Prakriti, which is its energy. So when I'm talking now, it is my energy that is manifesting as talk. When you're listening there, it is your energy that is manifesting as hearing. There is no difference between you and your energy. But um, for making these concepts stronger, we call Purusha as the male and Prakriti as the female, the mother. Prakriti is the unconscious material, the energy, unmanifested nature. Now, my talking cannot tell you what it is. My consciousness has to get into the talk so that the words are formed. So, this is how forms are made. And Prakriti is an intangible matter, it's the non self. The Purusha is the real self. The Prakriti, which is the matter out of which everything in the universe is manifested, is made of three gunas. The minute she starts manifesting, and I would say she and he here for terms of understanding, she has three gunas, the sattva, rajas, and the tamas. Tamas is a dullness and inertia, ignorance. Such an ignorance that if it is very severe, we don't even know that we are human beings. We can behave like animals at any point of time, or worse than animals, because animals still have some um, rajas and sattva in them, but we can go to the lowest, the most degraded part of ourselves and not know we are making a mistake. The typical example of this is Duryodhana telling his guru, he says, I know that what I'm doing is wrong. I know this is not dharma. I would like to be dharmic, but somehow I'm not able to do it. I'm helpless. So this is what happens. Sometimes you'll say people can be very negative, and then they will say that you try to tell them, look, you have this thing happening in your life. You've got something positive. Why don't you concentrate on the positive aspect? But then the tamas is so strong that they'll say yes, but they'll say, but you know, this was so difficult for me. That is why. And then they will go back to the negativity. And that is why Swamiji is always talking, Swami Niranjan, about Manaprasad, being cheerful, being joyful, because the nature of our soul, which is a portion of that Purusha, is to be happy. So when you are happy, you will realize you're not in competition with anybody because there is enough in the universes to go around. It is only the greed of some of us that has deprived other people of their food and shelter. So this is tamas where we will not get out of it and then we'll just sit rigid in our belief systems. And these belief systems can also go right until the religious practices in each religion where we say we are the only ones and what we do is the only truth, and people who do not do what I do not believe, and they believe that so strongly that sometimes we can kill each other for the sake of this rigid belief. It is said that most wars on this earth have been because of religion, not understanding the Purusha, not understanding our own inner potential for joy, for being selfless, for being able to share, and for being able to be at peace with other creations in the universe. And I think the COVID has brought us down to much of that, and in its own way has shown to us our own inner manifestation of the divine by um, the selfless thoughts and actions you see all around you. People look at just the negative parts of a newspaper, but look at what the media is showing you about children who are toiling so they can study and come up. Yesterday, five children of a Rajasthani bricklayer and a homemaker, poor wife, five girls, they have all passed the civil services examination, the IAS, when they hardly had food at home. They were working to be educated because that yearning was there. This is moving into Rajas. Tamo guna moves into Rajas, and Rajas says, okay, I've suffered enough. Let me get up and do something about it now. So there is activity here, energy, movement. You start getting more dynamic. You want to compete, go ahead and do something good. But now we forget that in that process, there are many people who are competing with you. There are other people too who are Rajasic. Now comes the negative aspect of competition when we want to put the other down just because we want to get this particular aspect into ourselves. Then greed comes up, and tamas, when it is changed to pure rajas, tamas and rajas together, we damage ourselves and somebody else. You might go on to become a great judge, a great surgeon, but you will start and you're well known, you're doing a great job, but it's all about you. I have done this. I am responsible for this. My family must benefit from this. So this is Rajas. And when somebody else is doing that and maybe is slightly better than you or more street savvy than you lose out. And when you lose out, the pain comes. So Rajas is associated with pain and pleasure, never steady. Then at some point you ask yourself, what am I doing all this for? Am I happy all the time permanently? Are my children happy? Are my kinsmen happy? Are my employees happy because of them coming here and taking care of me? Am I taking care of them? You move into the sattvic or the pure aspect of yourself. That produces happiness. Every time you reach out and help somebody else, you feel happy because there is a satisfaction and you realize that you are not the only person in the universe. Okay, next slide. Meanwhile, in the meditations, when people do the Gayatri mantra, they are at the lowest level. If you can see, the Purusha and Prakriti together, they become what is called the cosmic intelligence, the Mahat, then the cosmic Buddhi or the discrimination of what is permanent, what is impermanent. All that is material is impermanent. All that is pure consciousness, Purusha aspect is permanent. So we have to move towards that which is more permanent than the temporary pleasures of life. And as you move deeper and deeper, you will find that this Buddhi itself becomes the charioteer drawing you inwards. Then you come to realize that from the Buddhi, you will come to the Satvika Ahankara. You could be, if you did not make that decision, you could be Tamasik Ahankara, Rajasik, or Satvik. And when you come to the Satvik Ahankara, you will realize that all this time we have been functioning with the inanimate and the animate consciousness here and there. Inanimate being the indriyas, that is the our organs of the objects that we are getting attracted to with various jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. The organs of nearly all of you know it, but for newcomers, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the skin for touch, the mouth for taste, touch, hearing, seeing, smelling. All these will lead us towards certain objects, which nobody says don't enjoy it, but don't get attached to it, that if you don't have it just this way, it makes your whole day a mess. And I've seen this happening to many, many people. You want dosa and chutney, and this chutney is not exactly that way. There's a little bit less of salt, it spoils their entire day. So this is identification. You enjoy what you have and get on with life. There are so many beautiful things that you can enjoy because when you are with the spirit. So it is said that there was a great saint in India called Ramakrishna Paramahansa. And somebody went to him and said, life is so wonderful outside. I have this and that and this and that. And I'm surprised that you're sitting quietly in your room and uh, meditating on something, being with something, and not enjoying all this. How can you do that? And Ramakrishna smiled and said, that's what I also think. Here is this most beautiful inner world. And how can you leave that and go to all these temporary and transient pleasures? This is what I also think, he says. So, anyway, going on, the Kathopanishad says, Angushta Matraha, the size of a thumb is the size of your Atma. What is the Atma? We all think of it as something that is something that we don't know. Everybody has a soul. We all say everything has a soul, everybody has a soul. But none of us have acquainted ourselves with the soul. And the Bhagavatam will tell us the soul is as big as a Paramanu. Paramanu means the smallest thing is an Anu, an atom, and smaller than that is a Paramanu. So you can look at this, there is that Paramanu or that Atma in out of that Purusha, fractions of this green tiny circles, everything in universe carries those little bits of Paramanu, which gives you that consciousness. That is your Atma, your soul. And you have Prakriti, which gives you all the rest of it. The Indriyas, the objects of pleasure in the world, the objects of different types of pleasure, five types of pleasure. Then you have that which makes the mind to think in a particular logical way, the manas, which gives you the satisfaction that whatever you are doing is right anyway, no matter what you do. The mind can be very deceptive. It can validate anything. You can kill somebody else and you can say, I did it because God asked me to do it. So, or there's a tamasic manas. So you can have tamas, rajas, sattva in the prakriti side, in the energy manifestation. But in the Purusha side, and we are made of both Purusha and Prakriti, there are many such fractions of consciousness which are looking at all the games that the Prakriti is making the body and the mind to play around with. Next slide. So, when you go deeper and deeper, you move into a world called yoga. Now, just to make it very, very clear, in yoga, the way the gurus in the Bihar School of Yoga teach us, they teach the asana, the yamas and niyamas first. Swamiji would see whether we are following the 10 commandments of this yoga in the beginning, whether you can be non-violent, whether you can be more honest with yourself, satyam asteyam, whether you have personal integrity, are you taking the credit for what somebody else is doing, or are you taking the credit for what your guru is doing? And that is one of the greatest damaging factors in your own personal sadhana, because you are going off on the tangent of falseness. So when you practice all these yamas and niyamas, which I'm not going into now because this is not a talk on yoga per se, Ashtanga yoga, and then you learn to breathe properly, because non-violence and breathing are the same. When you breathe, you don't grab the breath that someone else needs. And that often happens when we have more gadgets than we need. For example, uh, a lot of air conditioners, it's okay to be comfortable, but a lot of it damages the air layer above you. And there are people who will be breathing that air that you have left for them, which could be polluted, with a lot of electronic gadgets constantly working, a lot of chemicals in the earth, a lot of chemicals in the air, because we are making an illusion of heaven for ourselves here and damaging the rest of the universe in the process. Now, that is not yoga. You might compete with something, you might um, practice something, and you might get a name. But what is yoga actually? Patanjali calls it Chitta Vritti Nirodha, to suppress or go beyond the ripples of the past conditioning. The Chitta is the treasure house of all your memories of your past, or in other words, all your um, um, conditionings that you have gone through. The whole of evolution has gone through, the trees, the plants, the animals, all of which we have been at different times through Prakriti in our long journey, and coming back again and again because we are not um, getting associated with um, the Purusha within ourselves. So you have this Atma, and in the center of one's own being, they say, 10 angulis. You keep your hand at your Manipur chakra, that is at your navel, 5 fingers come there. And from your heart level, another 5 fingers, 10 fingers there, like this. And you come to the point of your sternum, the lowest part of your sternum that binds your ribs. This is a practical aspect of it. You keep your attention there. This is a trigger point for the chitta. You try to visualize your Ishta Devata at that point with devotion, and you try to visualize your Ishta Devata in your mind. And you'll see the difference that the mind takes a long time to think and get the image, whereas in that part, this is what is called the heart, not the physiological heart, not the emotional, sentimental heart, but the chitta. And this is where the image will immediately spring up. You can do it at your own, at your leisure. And it is that part that there is a paramanu. So when you realize that just as you have a paramanu, everything in the universe has a paramanu. This iPad on which I'm talking has a paramanu. This book has a paramanu. The person that is listening has a paramanu. Everything in the universe has a paramanu. And when you are able to get in touch, realize that this thing is there, then you speak to the Lord in your own heart, because that part, your Atma, is a part of that Purusha. And you say, the powerful thieves of my senses have blinded me by stealing my most precious possession, my discrimination. What is my discrimination? Choosing what is temporary, thinking it's better than what is permanent. Identifying with my body and mind and not identifying with my soul. These senses have thrown me deep into the pitch dark well of delusion. Please, O Lord of Lords, extend your hand and save this wretched soul. So try this on your own, just for a minute now. So you can see this. We will go more into the Purusha Suktam itself tomorrow, but we have to learn this, that every Upanishad talks about the Purusha. Every Itihasa like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Puranas talk about the Purusha. And Prashna Upanishad, for example, will say just like the plants leaning towards the sunlight, all factors of physical existence lean towards Purusha as they are his form, as they are his images. And Purushayanaha, when they reach him, they dissolve into him like the hub of a wheel. It doesn't stand separate from the wheel. Now it has two parts, the Purusha within us. There is a beginning to it, a period prior to creative process. He was there before he became your soul. That is a Purvam. He was there in the beginning before he manifested you. Arishat. Arishat is he destroys, eliminates all the obstructions and deficiencies that we have so that we can reach the source. In the Quran, they say that Bismillah ir-Rahim, ir-Rahman, ir-Rahim. What does that mean? The all glorious divine. Because of his beneficence and his mercy, breathes out and manifests the all beings. Because of his mercy, he breathes in and takes all beings within himself. And this is a very important surah of the Islamic tradition. It's saying the same thing that God, when he breathes you into himself and breathes you out as his manifestation. Now, in the there is one aspect of the creator, which is aham asmi, I am. And when the sadhaka realizes that he is, to start with, a portion of that Purusha, that consciousness, and you're not just, Dharmakirti or anybody, the cat, the dog, then you realize that you have a little of those qualities that the ultimate Purusha has. And what is this ultimate quality? One of them is the Sankalpa Shakti. You decide and you can do anything you want. Even children who have nothing have shown this in the past few years by reaching places where normally they could not, just out of sheer determination. That is a part of the Purusha, the ultimate Purusha, which can create anything he wishes. It has two dimensions, Murta and Amurta. It has a form, and that form can be seen when you reach a particular point. That is called the Pratyaksha or the direct experience. It is also without form, Amurta, it's not a Murti, and that is called Paroksha or indirect experience. It is the indwelling spirit, they say, in the right eye of a person. Now, when they say the right eye of a person, they are not being literal about this. It's not in your right eye, then isn't he there in the left eye? Not like that. When they say the right eye, they are talking of the embodied soul. He is there he is the indwelling spirit of your embodied soul. He is also the spirit in all the universes, in every person in the same way. So the Amurta aspect includes Vayu and Antariksha. That is, Vayu is the pranic element, the air that is surrounding us and which everybody breathes. Antariksha is the space between the physical matter and the higher mind, which is, and both Vayu and Antariksha cannot be destroyed. Antariksha cannot move because it's what is there. Now, Murta or the form, these are formless. You can't see the air, you can't see the space in between generally. Murta is Prithvi or the earth, which is subject to death, decay, and destruction. And we are all made of these elements: the earth, the air, the space, water, the waters of consciousness, fire within us, Agni, that helps us to um, have a form, anybody, any being to have a form so that we can reach the source and melt into the total form. Now, at this time, 7:59, 8, we have to stop, right? So, first, we are told there is only the waters of consciousness. As I told you, it's the powers. And from this powers, they say, Prajapati took a form, that is, the divine took a form as the creative force, floated on a lotus leaf, and created the universes. It was created by tapas. We'll go more into this tomorrow as we go into the Purusha Suktam itself. And we'll leave this with just a picture of um, Vishnu, which is a form, Mahavishnu, lying as Padmanabha Swami on a serpent, which is Ananta, means no beginning, no end. It means eternity. He is sleeping on the serpent of eternity, who the pure consciousness, the one and only supreme, is sleeping on the uh, serpent meaning something that can move the way he wishes and adjust to him, like an endless mattress of eternity, and lying in the milk ocean. What is milk? Milk is what we are nurtured with, our first food, and the milk within us is what we will make into the most special part of it by making it into yogurt and churning it and getting into the cream of who we are, and finding the butter of who we are, which we will use as oblation. Oblation is called Mahanaivedyam. When in many traditional homes, you will find that food in all faiths, not just here, is first offered to the divine food that is cooked at home, and then we eat it. It's consecrated. We say grace and thank the Lord for giving us what we have got. But what is it that we have got? Not just that food. Mahanevedyam is when you offer your entire soul back to the divine. So that is what is shown as Prakriti at his feet. This is Purusha is lying latent, but when the time of manifestation comes, she is massaging his feet and waking him up so that he can get up and manifest his glories. From his umbilical cord comes a lotus, and we'll go into that tomorrow also. This lotus contains Brahma, his own creative force. This is the symbol that is given for Purusha at the beginning of creation. So we'll go more into it tomorrow. At a particular time, they come across when the ocean is being churned. That is when the negative and positive forces are fighting for survival. And the divine, the Purusha, comes as a tortoise to hold the churning stick up so it doesn't fall into the ocean. The churning stick being a mountain. And Prajapati, that is the creative force called Brahma, asks this tortoise that is holding up um, the churning rod, and he says, "Are you from my flesh? Have I created you?" Because there was nothing in creation before this. And the tortoise says, "No, I've been there all the time, even prior to you. All those that have issued forth, prior to all of that, I've been there. The form appeared now," he says, "but its spirit has always been there. This is Purusha." And to demonstrate this power, the Purusha arose from that tortoise with 1,000 heads, eyes, and feet. When they say 1,000, they mean immeasurable, the immensity of creation. And this is called the Purushasya Purushatvam. It is an introduction to the Purusha Sukta. All creations happen as emanations from a common desire to manifest. That desire is called Kama or Ichha Shakti. This tortoise is the essence of all primeval waters. It represents Prakriti in the presence of Purusha, unfolding manifest power and evolves into the entire universe. That is why you find a tortoise hard on top, the surviving instinct of Purusha, and the soft underbelly of Prakriti, the vulnerability and the tenderness of the mother. So we'll stop here today and we'll carry on tomorrow. Hari Om Tat Sat. Close your eyes for a minute. Place your neck down so you're looking at your heart, at the Chitta. And in this Chitta, keeping your mind here, let us chant 3 Oms, trying to visualize the throbbing energy of Om at the sternum. Breathing in. Om. 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 Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Krishna Arpanamastu. Open your eyes and look at the world differently. Every person is your kinsman or a kinswoman. Everything that you thought an object is here to give you the comfort in life. Make yourself comfortable with those objects that you see also. Hari Om Tat Sat. Tomorrow we'll meet again at 6:30. It's 8:07. I'm sure a lot of you have other things to do, so we'll get on. If any of you want, you can send me questions and I will answer on WhatsApp, common WhatsApp, Chandipat. And even White it is 6 and 7, because we are all one, we are not separate. We are only divided with different skills. But that which gives us all our skills is the one divine consciousness and his energy, Purusha and Prakriti, which makes up the mother and the father of the universes. So Hari Om Tat Sat.